Hi, and welcome to the Takeaways podcast. On today's episode, we are talking about a really interesting topic, and that's streaming. Over the last few years, streaming has transformed entertainment globally. But in Africa, the market is not as the same as in North America and Europe, right? High data costs and the markets that are fragmented, and the payment challenges and the economics of content have made it incredibly hard for platforms to be able to scale in Africa, right? But at the same time, there are companies and startups who are trying to tackle this problem head on. And today I'm talking to a founder who is really trying to bring the game to all the global platforms that are present in Africa. I'm speaking to Manu, who is the co-founder and CEO of Wi-flix, a streaming platform that's focused on making entertainment more accessible to African audiences. How are you doing, Luis?
Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. Thank you. I'm doing super. I'm excited to be here today.
To start with, right, let's speak on Wi-flix. What do you guys do and what charged you to start this streaming platform?
In a very simple way, we are, a subscription video on demand and live streaming platform. We launched a little over 5 years ago. We started from Kenya, actually, even though the founders are both Ghanaians. We started from Kenya. We launched in Ghana later on that year. We started Kenya as purely to test waters, to see what the MVP is going to be. And then we do a fully commercial launch in Ghana in 2020 in November. And within that, we launched in 2 telcos, that's Vodafone and MTN. And then from there, we launched in Nigeria, and then launched in Zambia years later. And we're even back in Kenya on a new commercial proposition as well, which is really good. But we stand as a bridge between normal users trying to get access to centralized African content, which is not anymore where from before we came in, and also streaming partners or companies or distributors that do create content and they do not know how to launch that content, because a lot of people go out looking for all these other big streaming platforms out there to see how they can get their content on board. But we stand as a bridge in the first place to cement and to look at the connectivity between these 2 platforms in all as a whole. So we've come a long way, and I believe we're making a big stride in the market as well. I mean, that's the more reason we are on this podcast, right? So yeah.
You have been, in the market for quite a while, right? I imagine at the beginning, it was quite tough to kind of be able to present a business case, especially at a time when the likes of, like your Netflix, your Amazon Prime were quite big. What was your unique kind of value proposition that you presented to not only the, investors who backed you at the beginning, but also the audience?
We've always seen ourselves as one mobile-first streaming platform built specifically for Africans, designed to make movies and TV content more accessible. That's number 1. More affordable. That's number 2. And locally relevant. So these are the very 3 stuff that we saw. Accessibility in the sense that we centralized that platform to allow local telco partners to partner with us and be able to connect with each other and allow telco users to be able to access our platform. So readily and available, when you dial a certain short code in certain countries, you'll be able to access that. So quick accessibility through different platforms, online, USSD, SMS, and whatnot in the local countries, even on TV, mobile, etc. And then we look at affordability in the sense that, our closest competitor, who was Showmax then, literally would the difference between us and them, we were like a little over 85% more affordable than them, creating a saving line for mid to low tier income earners in Africa, people to be able to launch onto our platform, pay it readily and be able to access it. Even when you bring it down to our daily offers, it brings it really, really low, between 0.85 cents or even 0.9 cents per customer, which is really, really very, very low, to be able to get customers to get on our platform to use. And then we're talking about locally relevant, right? Content that resonates with the local people. Because ideally, there are terrestrial TV, people are showing or not. There are interesting TV stuff going on there. So before we launch in a country, and this is why we've taken our time in most of these countries with the launch, is to really understand the country economic factors, go deep into the content accessibility, what people are actually doing, what are they watching, what are the likables, what can we marry that with? Can we pick one content from one side and merge it to the other side and basically find a leverage between two sides of different content, and let's say between Ghana and Nigeria, and say, we can cross-pollinate between these two countries and send content over. So we have content from Zimbabwe, we have content from South Africa, from Kenya, running through different parts of the four countries that we've launched to actually make content relevant in these local markets. At its core, we are not just another version of another streaming platform. Reimagined streaming model tailored to how people in Africa actually consume content. That's what we stand for.
I want to understand like two things from the side of the user and from the side of the content, right? You've already explain that on the side of the user you form like partnerships with the likes of like your telcos to be able to allow the users to be able to access the platform on the data bundles. Now on the content side, right, I think back when the Netflix and Showmax released these reports about how much they were spending to commission content, I realized that it costs a lot, right? So now like I'm trying to understand from your POV, right, if you're trying to commission the content but you are also trying to make it affordable and also like ensure that it's high quality content, how do you strike that balance, right, between creating content that's really high quality but also ensuring that like an end user can be able to afford it?
To us, we look at different models, right? It's all in your modeling. The reason why some other platforms will still charge higher is based on their base model. It's like price commodity. If you buy content or if you buy, an example, I'm from Ghana. I love fufu. I'll use fufu as an example. If I'm getting a bowl of fufu with a nice soup and everything, and the guy who makes fufu gets the ingredients or the contents in a very low commodity market, and he's able to negotiate well, it boils down to how much they can actually sell it for. So you become very competitive with the other markets when you get your supplies at low cost, irrespective of the quality. So that is where we started our business from the start. We were like, we can't be like any other platform. One, we didn't have not much money to invest in massive content. We're like, we'll pick the scraps. We will pick whatever is out there that people can send out to the likes of the other bigger streaming platforms, and then we're going to master that. So we picked that. So what we did is we create like a sub studio. We picked the low-end streaming contents that was actually out there, including some very high-end ones locally in Africa that had some few issues, because it's really well. You watch movies on TV and other stuff, you see crawlers on it, you see somebody advertising, you see banners and clippers, even in its content's original state. That was what we were receiving from production studios. And funny enough, this is the same content at a rich state where the message or the script is very relevant, the pictures are great, but mostly there'll be issue with sound and some few vision issues. So what we do is we pick that and we started re-editing and rewriting those stories. That's where we started from. We look at base content, we rewrite. So those things really brought down the cost of content investment from our side, where we started negotiating in revenues share rather than doing either a minimum guarantee or paying outright. Because initially, our money was all for tech, our money was all for marketing. So we needed to find a very creative way of remodeling the normal model that everybody uses in the world, change that, get our supplies, the likes of all these big streaming companies, Media Guru and whatnot we have out there, to really understand our model, and then to be very transparent with them on those models based on revenue share and say, let's bring your content up to speed on international level. Let's look at the movie international data labs system and see what kind of specification that quality content has to have. Let's bring them up to that level. So we invested in that because we had the resource in terms of human capital. And then we started churning out this content on our platform. So we do have a huge content outlook, but we don't show all because most of them needs to go through processing. Take them through the necessary processing and we bring them out there. So this is what reduced our content cost, thereby affecting or giving the right kind of customer cost and giving us the right kind of target market to look at, So it's all with your business model and how you actually been able to convince initial people that come in to be true to the model, explain the model to them, get the model transparent with them, and invest the right way. So we looked at some of these, factors to be able to launch right.
How did you convince them? Because I imagine that it's hard because most of the content producers are used to being paid in lump sum upfront. How do you convince them that like a revenue sharing model was the way to go?
It all started from our base business model, right? Any streaming platform I've seen out there, no matter how big you are, is direct to consumer. They don't go through telcos. They don't go through any other processes. Even though some even try going through telcos, they pulled out because it is a lot of commitment you would have to give to the telcos to be able to execute that. So we looked at end results. So we started taking them through a process. We tell them, the end result. The end result is that get 1 million customers very soon, get mid to low tier income earners, commit to daily propositions very soon. That translates into bigger chunks of revenue. And then you get a part of that bigger chance of the revenue monthly. So when that happens, if you draw it out, mathematically, if you show them the analytics and detailing, it is much easier to convince when they see the numbers and they tell you, what, this is actually it. But then again, we haven't started before. We haven't fully implemented. We've implemented the model, but it wasn't live. We needed content to go live. And this is why we started in Kenya with the first 3,000 customers. We're like, what, let's start this with 3K customers. Let's see how this is going to go. We started some few marketing. We picked up numbers from them. We started showing our content partners like, what, this is it. On top of that, myself, my co-founder, even if I'll speak for myself, I have worked for telcos for over 15 years. I've run several marketing departments, mass market. I've done innovation at lengths in telcos. I'm helping startups, creating data or innovative propositions for customers. And I knew too well what would work in terms of soft and hard bundling proposition for customers. So I used the knowledge that I've acquired negotiating, bringing deals in products and innovation and partnerships from telco into my current business. And that's really the help. I can say experience that does a lot of stuff, but then also knowing who to speak to in the market. My co-founder did a great job on that because he is from a media side of the business, working for media companies, etc. And that constituted massively to the app onboarding and bringing up people. So I could tell them analytically what we can do and what we're doing with telcos because I am from there. He could really emphasize and know, the various modes and moods in the room to determine who is the right person to speak to at the start of our content and who to actually bring on board. And that was the start. The moment we started, the numbers started coming out and people were actually seeing the right detailing coming out on that, it became very easy for others to onboard as well. Mm-hmm. It is quite a very difficult start because it took us almost a year to bring some of these things out. But reality is that it's quite also very fulfilling because we knew the model does work because we know Spotify does the same thing. And we thought if music is doing it, why not video?
You launched in 2020, and that was at the height of COVID when, a lot of streaming platforms were taking off. How has growth been both from the side of the users of the platform and the content creators?
It's been amazing. We always say it's 5 years because December, we launched in December 2020. Yeah, but literally, the reality is it's been amazing. We started well. Also due to COVID, a lot more people were home. Africa didn't behave the same way as Europe and other places. So I myself, I was living in the Netherlands when we started, and it was quite, we needed to find a safe way to launch products. All the detail on COVID also came to propel, but ideally that wasn't the trick because when we started at the height, we gained only 3,000 customers. In December, we had launching Ghana. And basically that was where things started picking up. So within a year, we saw about, if I could be right with my numbers, we saw about 60,000 customers within a year. 200,000 customers within a year, 200,000 customers within a year. And that was really good. And that was the time we had the news, when the news came out about our 1 millionth subscription. And we announced that because it was quite kind of a big thing for us to see our target market. Our target market is mid to low tier income earners. These are guys that subscribe like 4 times in a month. They only watch when they have money. Africa is largely a prepaid market. So to get somebody to commit multiple times within a period of mimicking a telco bundle proposition in streaming, it's kind of a crazy thing to do. But we did that. And we were taking our customers through a journey where we tell them you can watch a content or you can stream content at your own time and pay money at your own time to be able to stream. Do you get me? So we had customers paying really something really small daily or some specific days, or we call some people even coming on a 3-day weekend on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And we see that kind of a mimic kind of structure within that process. And as we started getting popular and we started seeing likabilities on the platform, that is where we saw a lot more people streaming and using the platform. So from 200K customers, we grew up to 1 million. And then from there, we're now over 4 million customers, including our customers in Africa and the UK as well. And this is tremendous over the past few years because we saw ourselves as, these very infant platform that's coming in and making waves, but now it's become like something really that customers really love. And we've seen that all through testimonials, etc. But it's been a phenomenal time growing throughout all these period as well.
And then in terms of content that's on the platform, how has that been growing?
We've grown our content significantly. Currently, we have a huge backlog of even content to process and push because literally we went into our own post-production. And I'll give you a little story around that. Not even a story, like the real facts of issues within the continent. The biggest issues on content in Africa, largely most of them, is around post-production. We've got great stories. We've got great cameras. Right now, people even use their mobile phones. If you have the high-end Huawei or iPhone or Samsung, you will be able to create a great content out of your telephone. Even in a movie, cinematic, if you get the right kind of tools back in it. But the issues we have at the end is vision quality. So even though people can create a 4K, whatever content, but vision quality is something that other companies mastering to actually bring you a proper cinema grade content. Audio quality is something we always frown around. You're watching a movie, somebody picks a glass up and there's no sound. A glass splash on the ground, there's no sound. Somebody opens the door and shuts it, there's no sound. To make you feel you are in a content, all the various elements of the sound, the audio needs to be proven in the content. So what we decided to do after going through, for the past 5 years, looking at African content, we're like, we've got great stories, we've got great pictures. Even though we want to help with pictures as well, let's invest in full post-production and say, we have a post-production studio in Accra. Everybody that walks in, verified by, our platform, it's gonna come out with a great content at the end. So you come in at no fee at all. You can come out and churn out Dolby Atmos, from Dolby 5.1 up to Dolby Atmos content, up to cinema grade exports, and even with IMAX's vision quality on top of that. This we are doing it in connection with Dolby, who is really helping us complete our studio. It's going to be launched. It was supposed to launch actually this month. Around this time, I was supposed to be in Ghana, but we've got some few delays on that. We're launching the next month. And then any content producer or filmmaker that goes through that is ideally going to come up with a massive content that's going to hit big cinemas because it's going to be really good grades. You can launch it locally. You can launch it with us because we have 4 million customers, including customers in the UK as well. Launch largely on Amazon Prime, where you can send out your content to over 290 million Prime Video customers if we have the right kind of audio quality, right kind of subtitling for different countries and even different languages as well, which we are currently embarking on a great partnership with an AI company to be able to do that. So with all these coming together, we want to be the biggest bridge for African content to cross over, not only in different countries in Africa, which with the help of Wi-flix, but basically in different parts of the world. So that has been our content journey so far. It's been really phenomenal, but we keep on getting great content, but we feel we need to go into the next step where quality becomes the focus. Yeah.
I'm going to come back to that topic, on the partnerships and the growth and everything. But now I want to talk about, the competitive environment. You mentioned that when you launched in 2020, your biggest competitor then was Showmax, and Showmax is obviously not around anymore. At the moment, how do you see the competitive environment for streaming in Africa, considering the model that you have that's not quite like aligned to your likes of like your Netflix, etc.? How do you see it now that Showmax is no longer around?
It's a very tricky situation because we don't see Showmax not to be around. I mean, a lot more people, I've seen a lot of news out there saying, you know what, Africa is a graveyard for X, Y, Z, and a lot of stuff going on. I almost came to my LinkedIn to post some few things around that because I feel, I mean, there's been the likes of a lot of companies that's come out. I do not really want to mention names, but reality, there's been a lot of them that comes in and goes because there are some key things that we all miss here. Just as the same way in different parts of the world, even in between Ghana and Nigeria, you can't pick a product in Ghana and rubber stamp in Nigeria. What most streaming companies miss is that they just launch globally in Africa without looking at how is Botswana watching their content, how is South Africa taking their content, how the Ghanaians, how the Nigerians, how the Kenyans see content. We don't take these things into perspective. We are not looking at the various country economic factors of these countries to really understand what they go through and what drives them, massively. Competitively, when we launch, we launch against global giants like Netflix, Amazon, Showmax, the Walt Disney Company as well. Launching against them is extremely difficult because these guys they operate at a scale that allows them to invest billions in content, technology, and even global distribution. Regional platforms often suffer to match the level of investment. That is clear. That nobody can actually move away from. But reality is that what gives platforms like us an advantage is that we are local born and we understand our people. We understand with the way we purchase, our purchasing power. We understand the way we consume content. I can tell you there's a lot of people that even the massively number of people that streamers just on the web, they don't even like using apps because you know what? People think apps consume data. Data is a problem in Africa. And that's the thing. So these are very basic to launching propositions that is data prone. Like without internet, we don't exist. So you can find a way to solve issues around the internet or to mimic the behavior of people that uses internet day in and day out. You can survive. And that is from the level that we came from. I came from a telco background. I was the head of data for Airtel. I understood all data propositions that we sell to mid, high, and even low income earners. And we knew that this is what we're going into. So we need to wear a telco hat whilst launching a data proposition or a data prone or a data backed investment, doing a data backed investment in the continent. So we needed to take every single country differently. We needed to listen to the local people and we needed to launch differently. So these are some of the things that drives that. But I believe Showmax is not gone. I don't think they are gone at all. I think it's just a communicate. From my point, I really feel a company A came to acquire company B that owns Showmax. Company A owns an app that is like Showmax. Obviously, one is going to die. And if one dies, it doesn't mean that they are gone. They're literally going to onboard all their customers into another existing platform that would have it already. They're not going to lose content. They might lose one or two customers, but it is the thing to do. Today, if Wi-flix acquires any other company, we will consolidate. We will merge. They're going to be customers they're going to be cannibalization, we say, where one company would cannibalize the other. There's going to be a process where you would be a customer here and you're a customer there, and you would need to come together. So they're going to lose revenue, you're going to gain customers, and it's literally going to happen. But I think it's just a form of communication that has gone wrong. That's how I see it, because it's a simple acquisition, and through these acquisitions, there's a merger. I don't see them to be gone at all. And I even though I know it's huge and competitive, I think there's also market segregation as well. We know Showmax was close. We knew Netflix also close to us, but we think they target top tier customers, the top 15% of the market, the likes of you and I, who can easily buy data. We work, we do good jobs, we are being paid month on month, we buy data in a monthly form, so we can afford paying an extra $8, $10 to $18 a month streaming on other platforms. Do you get me? Even me, for myself, I subscribe to all of them. I mean, that's my nature. I need to see what's happening in other platforms, so we subscribe to all of them. But reality is, there are a lot of people, even like me, that are on all these platforms because, one, data is not an issue. Their spend power is huge. They're the top 15% of the African market. We decided not to chase for the same customers that Showmax is chasing, Netflix is chasing. So if you look at the content catalog, our catalogs are different. When we are buying the content, we make sure they are kind of unique, very unique from other platforms, so that we create a sort of uniqueness. So tomorrow, if you're on Showmax, you wouldn't feel out. You didn't feel like you're paying double. And even if you're paying double, we saw our customers, our top tier customers, to be paying just little. It's under $1 a month if you do the conversion in this current FX issues happening in the market. So we basically placed ourselves in a position where competition is very slim. Issues in terms of having a paired approach in terms of like customers being here or customers being the other side, it's also very low, and we can coexist and do a lot of stuff. I've been on a similar platform on speaking opportunities with Canal Plus. I mean, Mobile World Congress, I was on the same panel with some of the CEOs from Canal Plus, and we all spoke to this as well. We all share the same issues. We all share the same base, which is African base, but we don't share the same target base. And that is where we can all coexist. So that is basically us in terms of competition and market segregation.
Still on the topic of competition, how do you see platforms such as YouTube, your Facebook, these social platforms where content creators are putting content there? Like, how do you see them from a competitive point of view?
I think, the likes of Facebook, YouTube, and others, where people create content and put it out there, would always be a driving factor of short contents within the region. I mean, funny enough, we don't deal in short contents. People do create longer ones as well. You see some movies on YouTube because, it's quite monetizing. We've got content partners that comes to us, and especially on YouTube, they'll come to us and they tell us, oh, we have a content we want to give you exclusively for the next 6 months after we put on YouTube. We say, yeah, do that. Because ideally, our mission is not just to create a port of exclusivity, because we are not really into, but it's a place where people can come to and say, centralizing, I can find every content here. I don't want to go on subscribe to one channel, Ephraim's channel, Lewis's channel, somebody else's channel to be able to get all content together. But you can just be on Wi-flix and get all content together. So we can tell you can put it on YouTube. We also want to make sure content partners in Africa maximize their return on investment massively at any point in time. So you can't always make all the money from Wi-flix. You can make some money also from Disney. You can make some money from Showmax. You can make money from YouTube as well. It is fine, because we think all our customer bases are different. The people that goes on constantly to watch on YouTube, ask their streaming behavior, check for their data or their internet consumption behavior. It's very different. So we feel we can all coexist, defining your target really well. But then we always tell them, if you want to make the maximum out of your revenue, you'd want to keep it slim at one place where you can have more people coming in to watch because reality is that we've created a revenue share bundle, right? Our bucket is revenue share. It means that only the strongest survive. So if your content is not that unique enough, you might not have a lion's share of that revenue within that month. So we always tell people, give us exclusively for the first 6 months, put it somewhere for the next few months, and check how your revenues will behave. And most people come back.
You spoke on the importance of the partnerships that you have with the telcos, right? How do you try to pursue this? Because I imagine when you are pitching the idea, the telco has to benefit in some way. So what's your value proposition to them when you're doing the pitches?
Telcos are in for money, right? The base proposition for every telco is to sell voice, sell SMS, sell data, and now mobile money. Any other thing is considered as a value-added service. So value-added service means you can come in if it's profitable. If it's not, they don't care. If it makes a little money for them, it's fine. But it is not their core proposition. So what we did even from the start is position us as a very core value-added service, meaning that the telco takes a big part of your revenue, you take a part of your revenue as well, and then you together do a joint proposition and onboard. And that's what we did. Many companies couldn't do this from the start. I mean, I used to work for, and I can say this because most of these companies don't exist now. I used to work for, back at Airtel and Vodafone. We would get partners from Kwese and Wi-flix. And that time, I had the edge to start streaming because I was already in music streaming. We'll talk about that later. That's a different podcast. But basically, when they gave him, I told them, instead of hard proposition, do a soft bundling proposition, where telcos will bring in data, you bring in your offer, we jointly go launch, and we make money off it. But what became some of the bedrocks or issues for Kwesi and Wi-flix was that they were trying to sell a hard bundling proposition to most telcos and most providers, internet or fixed broadband providers. If you do that, it means they need to sell your proposition on top of their base sellout, which is basically they selling you as a package on top of data, voice, and SMS. It's difficult for them. They don't have the budget to go and sell you because you are not their core objective. The core objective for telcos, who are telcos are the biggest success stories of companies in Africa. And we need to really sit down and understand their blueprint of how they launch stuff to be able to do a lot more stuff with them. So if you decide to ignore their way of work and their way of bringing customers on board to sell things hardly to them, I remember they'll come and say, buy 1 million package for us and break it into bits and sell to your customers. And we're like, yeah, I can buy 1 million, but what shows that all my Airtel customers are going to subscribe $1 a month for your package to even make up to that 1 million? Because telcos originally have gone to buy data, SMS, and voice, and they need to sell that to their customers. So why would they add your streaming platform as a main leg, which your revenues will not be even 100th of their revenues, to go and sell?
So you're basically trying to ask them to increase their capex for not much.
Exactly. You're just going back to them and say, increase your capex and even your opex, because I have to go out and sell. Do you get me? So increase those two and pay you on top of that. It makes no sense. So I remember when we first had a call with MTN Nigeria, we launched in a month from day we had a call. Normally telcos takes up, Safaricom is taking us almost 3 years to launch a commercial proposition. MTN Nigeria, it took us ideally a month, because telcos understand what a golden opportunity is. And we spoke their language from the start because they know too well what they're going to gain from us. One, we're going to increase their data output. We take all the marketing. We do everything. We give you half or even a lion's share of our revenue. And what's going to happen is every customer's output on data is going to increase. Their average revenue per user on data is going to increase, because if you stream on my platform, after consuming the telco's data, you buy your own data to watch. So in effect, they're going to gain massively. But these are the elements that most streaming platforms don't see. So when it comes to they having a deal with telcos, it becomes tough. But I also understand them, because at that time, it became like, well, why are telcos not understand? Because why are streaming platforms not understand? Because I was wearing the telco hat, but now I wear a different hat. Where on that hat, there's also cost of content. And this is why I used, the revenue modeling idea to change the dynamics of my content onboarding, because then I know I can sell well to telcos at a reduced price. So it's a grassroots thing. For most of these streaming platforms to deal with telcos, they need to go back and change their business model on how they are investing in content. And you largely mentioned it. Most content companies are spending huge money, into millions, even on one feature movie. But today, if Wi-flix would have to, and some of them we've done it, to do that, we'll be spending under 50K on a movie, because post-production will be under our call. We do a collaboration. We do that. Pictures are great. Content in itself is great. We master it. We send it out. So we're doing it very smartly. That's the difference.
At the peak of COVID, when a lot of streaming platforms were coming up, there was this talk where people were saying it's like trying to sell $2 for $1. right? And then I think we have seen this come to life in that, like a couple of these platforms have like introduced advertising and some have bundled. How do you see this from a POV? How do you try to make, like a business case for because at the end of the day, you are a business and you need to have a bottom line, like a positive one for that matter. How do you kind of like try to see that balance?
I mean, it's quite tough because for a business like that and looking at the models that we are using, sometimes it's difficult to even break even and even be profitable. But I can say that we've been profitable for the past 3 years, which is good. We went into our whole line of business for the first 2 years without being profitable. But for the past 3 years, we've been really EBITDA positive. That's a very good stuff. On top of that, we believe there are a lot of models that we can play with. We are seeing AVOD, FVOD, the FAST VOD as the only models that are there, but we are exploring models. We are exploring media models, which it's one of our secrets. I wouldn't go into. I'll just do it in mention. We're exploring like media models. We're exploring like specific partnership models, even with banks and etc. Which within all these models, these are models that are coined or crafted by us internally to help churn in or bring in more revenues and get more usability out there and get more constant adoption. So these are the models that we are looking at. Then again, there are also other models that can be mixed. Currently to the world, we are just SVOD, but very soon we'll be introducing, AVOD, FVOD and stuff like that, where even TVOD, we started TVOD last 2 years, and it was really good for specific high rated content and say, just as other platform does it, pay for it and watch it at the time. We saw great adoption for that as well. So we've been playing with a lot of models from the start that are really not in the books of anybody. A lot more people don't know, especially these media banking and partnership models that we have. But reality is we believe there's no one way into winning the African content market. There are different ways of going around that. So we keep on exploring to see what really best fits. We don't mind which model works, but basically it's going to be done country by country to see what model really fits a specific country and launch at a particular time in a very good way. That's what we see.
Do you see yourself trying to expand it and perhaps doing like a licensing kind of model on top of the revenue sharing? How do you think of that?
Oh yeah. I think these are avenues that we've explored. Currently, there are specific sports content that we are going into that is off the ground licensing model. And we can largely do that because now we have, a slightly big buckets. So in terms of funding, so we can literally go in because our company is generating good revenue. So we're using that to invest into new licensing model for content to bring us to a certain stage in terms of sports. We're really doing that massively now with some sporting companies. Those are still out there. Our base model, even though it's revenue model, we've explored recoupable MG, we've explored straight up MG, we've explored also licensing model as well. So we keep on exploring different models, but our base model really is the revenue share. Unless of course your content is that unique in the sense that it's either co-produced with us or it's content out of the box just recently and it doesn't have that much history, etc. We can look at specific MGs or recoupable MGs or even a straight up license model. We've done a couple like that.
You have mentioned that, like a couple of the streaming companies that have been, like on the continent have unfortunately not have a long life. And now we have, like a Showmax. Do you see yourselves as the first streaming company in Africa to be able to grow to a point where like you can get in the ring with Netflix, Amazon Prime, and these other companies?
Yeah, I think we're on a great trajectory. I'm not going to shine on any other platform. We're all doing well in Africa. I really want to see more of homegrown companies grow and become big because we understand our people and we think we can serve our people really well. We're on a very great trajectory. We have some really hard targets to get to. Within the next 36 months, our goal is to get to 10 million customers. Hopefully you don't have to hold me on this if you don't get there. But the reality is that we need to get to it is nice coming out to say, well, you have 4 million customers. Yeah, it is fine. If we talk of we have a huge activity base. If you talk of like people who have subscribed one time within a specific period, it's a massively huge activity rate. But the reality is we want to get to the stage where If you are 10 million, you know you're in for the good. You have a huge customer base. You're monetizing it. You have different models running through the different parts of Africa. You have great partnerships, and you are really excelling. We are not shunning on the success that God has given us for now. All praise to God. We love that, but we have given us a very hard time in the next 36 months. Let's get to the Big 10. And from there, we can draw the necessary eyeballs. Because there's been a lot of conversations around the continent where I hear people speak about even streaming, and Wi-flix is not even spoken about. I'm like, wow. It pains a bit, because like literally most of these guys you're talking about, the Showmax and Netflix, when it comes to revenue market, when it comes to customer market share, we are way ahead of them. But when it comes to revenue and market share, I can tell they could have more than us, because ideally they are massively founded. These are billion-dollar companies. Some of them are listed as well, and they've got the right kind of fundings to do what they need to do. But the Africa shouldn't shun their eyes or turn their eyes from a platform that is homegrown, that has massively done well, brought a lot more customers on board, and is still thriving till date. And I feel we need to like all come together and bring this platform up and take it to the next level. As I said, our next 36 months is going to be really crucial from April, making sure that we are bringing the right kind of content out there, making the right stripes, making the right partnerships, and bringing our platform to the next level. The Big 10 is where we need to get to, and that's all what we are facing. There are two ways. It's either we're doing organically or inorganically. It's going to happen.
Whilst we're still on that topic of growth, you shared that you're trying to grow to the UK. How is that going, and how do you have to adjust your model? Because I imagine the streaming habits of the UK are not the same as the habits of our African brothers and sisters.
It's been amazing. It's been amazing. We launched in April. We've consistently seen month-on-month growth organically on the platform, which blows my mind. In the UK, to see the kind of adoption we've seen, people interested in African content, gives me chills. I'm not going to tie myself to any specific numbers here. We've set some internal targets. When we get there, we'll announce them. But basically, I have seen so much growth that it makes me wonder why Iroko left Africa for the western part of the world. I mean, we always discuss, we're like, why would you leave Africa? But there's a reason to that. And we're seeing these reasons vary. So we believe at a very soon point, that's if we should be able to planning to launch in the US and other markets as well through Prime. If we're able to do that by maybe mid or end of next year, these two markets could surpass the revenues we see in Africa combined. Or maybe the UK alone could surpass Africa combined, which is crazy. Then again, also, there are issues around hard currency, revenue splits locally, and also FX rate as well. So some of these things beats the conversions and you trying to report in different currency to your group versus somebody paying the UK and giving you pounds. It's different. So those are the two sides of it. But then again, I can say it's been really massive. It's been a great support from the Prime Video team, and we wanna see ourselves do more within these partnerships. There are more partnerships coming around. I don't want to make mention of them. We see them in the news, but we have a lot more wide up in terms of OEMs, in terms of other aggregating platforms, even in Africa as well and out of Africa. So there's a lot coming out, and we keep our fingers crossed on that.
To close off here, where do you see yourselves? I mean, you already stated that you're trying to get to the Big 10, but where do you see streaming going, in Africa, and what role do you see yourselves playing in that growth over the next 10 years?
I believe over the next 10 years, we're likely to see hybrid models. So subscription and ads within the region, just as internet penetration deepens and just as there's more accessibility, there's going to be a lot of models around that. There's going to be a lot of models combining, subscription ads and even adding different layers of AI to that in a massive perspective. It's going to happen. There could be, and this is 50-50, there could be a more deeper telco integration. We've seen discussions. We're on top level discussing and planning stuff with other telcos, two big telcos in Africa from the group office, and it's going to descend down to roll out in multi countries as well. So there's going to be more deeper telco integrations if streaming platforms needs to be overly massively successful. It's not going to be easy. There's going to be more mobile first platforms. So we're going to be thinking more mobile first. And that is the nature for us in all. There's going to be a stronger local content ecosystems. We've started that. We've started building. So like in Nigeria, we've chosen some companies to be centralized and to help regulate all content activities locally. In Ghana, we are doing that. In Kenya, we're planning that. In South Africa, we have that as well. So we're planning all across most of the countries we're planning to launch, and those we're launching as well, a more centralized way, a more stronger local content ecosystem. We need to be together. Talking of, we need to look like the content guild, the writers guild, all this kind of stuff. Communities out there needs to come together for us to have one focus to bring out African content to the next level. And then I think my last thing is there's going to be a more greater regional consolidation. It's going to happen.
I was actually about to ask you that on the question of consolidation. Are you guys at a point where like you can be able to snap up a few of the startups which are doing great work along the value pipeline of streaming, or even you guys, do you see yourselves being like acquired by these like big guys too? Is that like a thing that you see in the future?
It could happen. I'm not going to rule that out. I mean, even for ourselves, because if I'm always like, think of this way. If you were the CEO of Prime Video, I'm using Prime Video because we have a lot of dealing with them, so it's safe for me to talk about them. If you were the CEO of Prime Video and you've seen an African streaming company do 10 million plus customers, massively great turnout with great activity rate, making good pluses revenues month on month, even profitable to be valued $1 billion company at that time, you would want to buy, because it's one of the most, it's a green continent, but it's one of the most difficult to penetrate. And I'm not saying that we have history to tell us. We've got the story of Kwesi, Wi-flix, all these guys out there that have come in and folded, Hiroko TV and all that. So that conversation is still going to be there, whether I am with Wi-flix or not. Whatever hats I'll be wearing or whoever it will be in future is going to happen. And then there's also a very good possibility of us also acquiring others as well. I already told you, we either get to 10 million organically or inorganic. Yeah. So there's going to be much more, as I said, there's going to be much more consolidation where we or some other platforms will be looking at other platforms and say, you know what, let's come together. It's happening in the US. Why can't we do it? Hulu and Disney is happening. Do you get me? Currently, Netflix tried buying Warner, and it would have taken over HBO and all these companies as part of that. And it's going to happen. Now Paramount wants to do it. Paramount has its own platform in itself. Consolidation is happening at the global stage. It's going to happen at Africans' own global stage. It's going to happen. And it needs to happen to streamline certain things. And it's Canal Plus, but Multichoice. It's already happening. It's already happening. So I feel at the stage we would all need to come together. I mean, a very close friend of mine, I'm not going to mention his name, who's also who owns a streaming company somewhere else in the world, and we've had several conversations around. What we were even thinking about, like, why don't we come together and launch in some other markets? These things gonna happen. It's not always at a point of acquisition. It could be a combined proposition, and say, I mean, Showmax is gone, so I can use them as an example. Why not Showmax, Wi-flix go into Botswana and say, we have a massive proposition for you. One time, cut through, get access to these platforms. Let's kill it together. That is the stage. I mean, I think I've had conversation. I'm not going to mention the name. I was on a panel with someone. We've had that conversation before. We're like, yeah, we can do that. And that is a massive streaming platform in Africa. And we're still having these conversations as well. At a point in time, it's going to happen. And it needs to happen, because ideally, you can't pay for Wi-flix, pay for Canal Plus, pay for, I don't know if they're going to separate DSTV and Multichoice and all this. You pay for this, you pay for that, you pay for that, pay for all these multi-platforms. There needs to be a middle point. So I can say what Prime Video is doing is really smart, and I love them for it, because on their platform, in most of the countries, you can go under subscription. You see HBO Plus, Discovery Plus, Paramount Plus, and in the UK, you see Wi-flix, and you can add all to your subscription and have one bundle subscription for all. And it's a clever thing to do. And these are strategies that African companies needs to look at and adopt and say, let's all come together, even including the bigger ones, and say one proposition for all. Maybe we will be at commanding power when we get to 10 million. And those are the ideas that, comes when those things get there, because then, huge base, you have more commanding power. You can sit down with some people and say, you know what, come together. Let's do this. Let's go into these markets. Bring your offer down. Come to our level. Come to Africa's level. Then we sit at the table to negotiate for our people, because then you don't need to be paying $12, $20, $15 to watch a specific platform. But then because we have a seat at the table at the global African stage, we can come together and say, you know what, Prime Video, Disney, whatever, come together. Let's bring it down to Wi-flix level. We have a base. Let's bring it all together. Instead of let's go 99 cents for all of them. You put 4 platforms together, it's $4. Let's go for it and let's see what's gonna happen. These are the stripes we're gonna see. These are propositions we're gonna see. And obviously things are gonna change. Pricing could go up or come down, but we need to have great entry levels from all these platforms, whether we do it together or singly, they do it themselves. And we need to be at a commanding side of the table to be able to have these conversations and turn around some of these conversations, have these conversations on behalf of our people in Africa.
Man, I think it's an exciting time for streaming in Africa. I think we are at a time where like a majority of the local content is getting a lot of love, and it's really, really exciting to see platforms like you guys kind of being at the forefront of putting this content by the Africans in front of the eyes of Africans. And I think it's great work that you and the team are doing, and I wish you all the best as you go forward. It's been a pleasure chatting to you, man.
It's been a massive pleasure as well, always. And greetings to your listeners again. And call me at any time we have another conversation around content.
All right, Haram Sam, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Cheers.